بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذي أذهب الله عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. You can't hear me. Can everybody not hear me? Just going to check. Can anybody else hear me? Can any of you hear me? Okay. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي يفوض أمري إلى الله بصير بالعباد. Assalamu alaikum jamian wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everybody to our session in Ayatul Kursi. And it's just so interesting that I went to sleep late, but when I was falling asleep, all these thoughts were coming to my mind, what I'm going to be speaking in the class today. So alhamdulillah for that, at least I have some sort of plan for sharing today. And what I wanted to talk about today is, again, we are talking about the throne. And the throne is the heart. The throne of God is the heart of a believer. And so we have to understand what is the purpose of this heart amongst the different aspects of our journey, amongst our different aspects of what we are meant to do in our life, and how are we supposed to use this device that we've been handed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this amazing journey that the human being has been granted, the experience of glimpsing the divine. So today I want to touch upon the idea of bodhicitta, which is part of the Buddhist belief, and I'm taking whatever I'm sharing with you from Pema Chodron. She's an amazing author and she's a monk, Buddhist monk. And Pema Chodron has written many, many books, and I'm reading her current book. Currently the book I'm reading is called Welcoming the Unwelcomed. And she always explains this idea of bodhicitta, and she explains that bodhicitta translated means, bodhi means awakened, and chitta means heart and mind. And she says that awakening or enlightenment, which they say is bodhicitta, awakened heart and mind, she says that both of our mind and heart need to be opened, they need to be awakened for a particular purpose. And what she says is that one of the reasons that we need the heart open is so that it is open to helping others. Now, the idea of helping others is such a grand idea, because every single time we're talking to a religious person or a non-religious person, spiritual person or a non-spiritual person, the idea of helping another human being is the most basic and direct explanation of what we call being human, being humane, doing humanitarian work, being a good person. And it's directly translated as somebody who helps other people. Since childhood, children are taught that you have to share and you have to help. And so she's saying that the heart and the mind have to be open to help others. And we are all good people. at heart, at our core, we're all good people. And this is where I want to share some insights that I was having. We were discussing something yesterday. I was having a class with my teacher. And at our core, if we say that everybody is a good person, we will say that, well, we're all good people at heart, because in the end we all want to do good. We all would like to do good. We are all people who we like to be generous, we like to be helpful, but sometimes we can't. We don't find that capacity, or we don't find that capability to be able to be there for somebody, to help another person. And that's why we feel like the heart needs to be open. It's closed up. Sometimes we are feeling jealous. Sometimes we are feeling like we don't have enough to give. We say, oh, I wish I could change the world if I had enough money. If you come to third world countries like Pakistan or India, or the ghettos or the war-ridden countries, you can spend and spend and spend and spend, and you'll feel like you're not able to alleviate these poverty-stricken parts of the world, or so the idea is that we feel this need, we feel this want to help and change the world and do good. And that's why at the core we can say that we're all good people, we want to help. Now, this is what Pema Chodron has explained in her book, and the Islamic understanding for this is the word fitra, that we are all we all have this fitrat within us, which is the core of a human being, which is the true nature, the nature within us by default, that wants to do good, that feels that guilt on doing something wrong, that has that deep inner guidance and movement towards good, which we can say is like a magnet. A magnet keeps moving towards what it needs to attach itself to. And we see that if you have Rumi talks about likenesses wanting to be together. I think we discussed it in the last class, that those things which are alike, they will come together. And when we use the compass, we always use the N on the compass, right? We look at the North Pole on the compass, and we want to align ourselves to that in order to find guidance. And that was the way of finding guidance on the planet Earth, through that North Star. And that's hence the statement North Star. So somebody who comes to guide us or show us the right path, we call it the North Star. You've been my North Star. And it's really interesting that in one of the surahs or a couple of places, Allah talks about Ashab al-Shimal, and people who are the people of the North. And moving forward now with this idea of fitra, the idea is that what is the heart supposed to be used for then, or trained or polished into? It is supposed to be polished so that we can get rid of our fears and our inhibitions and our ruts and our confusions, so that the heart can reach its true nature. Because over time, our heart gets corrupted and rusted and covered up with a lot of these confusions and a lot of these ruts and habitual patterns that cover up the basic inner goodness within us. And when that basic inner goodness is affected by these external factors or growing up factors or experiential factors, then we realize that the heart needs to go back to its home. It needs to go back to its original condition. So in that sense, it is very, very important that we take care of the heart and we go on a journey of awakening it and opening it up. So today I want to share with you Ibn Sina's ideas into who we are. I am currently studying work by Ibn Sina with my teacher on joy and happiness. And Ibn Sina, as a philosopher, goes on to explain in great detail how pleasure is achieved, how joy is achieved, and what is the highest form of pleasure. And these philosophies, they're slow and they take time, and there's a lot of depth to it. So we are told by our teachers that we are made up of certain faculties, okay, as a human being. And we have a common sense, which we can call hisse mushtarak. And then we have the faculty of imagination, and we have the faculty of judgment, and we have these faculties so that we can come to use them in order to find our way to our perfection and pleasure and joy. Now, what happens is that the common sense observes life, and the the faculty of it's called the faculty of dhakira, where whatever we see gets recorded. So there's a common sense, which is observing things. Then whatever we observe gets recorded within us. And once that information is recorded within us, it is assimilated in certain ways. And usually the way we record information is in images. All right, these are images that we are recording within our memory. Now, once we have these images, once we have this recording within us, then we have these faculty of quwwate wahmiya and quwwate aqaliya. Now, the intellect and the wahm are these two different qualities within us, which are going to use the recorded information to create who we are and how we use this information in our daily life. Let me explain this further. For example, I see a car. That car is just an observation right now. It's just my common sense is just observing there's a car. Now, once I have this car recorded, it's going into the memory, the dhakira within me. After that, I'm going to create an understanding of this car, whether it's a good memory or it's a bad memory, and what it means to me in a lot of context of my history, my past, my future, my upbringing, my environment, my thoughts. There's going to be an analysis of this recording, and this is where the judgment happens through the quwwate wahmiya. And now this information can go into the ideas of like and dislike through the judgment, because wahmiya is the quality that helps me gauge my like or dislike towards this experience of me seeing a car. Once that has happened, there is also the intellect, okay, the aqal. Now over here, when we say quwwat aqaliya, we are not talking about the aqal of the brain and mind only or specifically, but we are also talking about that inner deep faculty in the heart that gauges something, that is able to come into the higher presence, a divine presence, a sense of being present and awakened. So we have this choice. What power are we going to use more towards a certain experience? Are we going to go into this extreme like and dislike of judging something as good or bad and something you approve and you don't approve, or you're going to come into a state of presence through the inner faculty of divine intellect? Why I'm explaining this is because I want to explain something I had started last week, and we were discussing judgment, and we were saying that when we judge something, we create a more unsafe world for ourselves, right? So I want to break that down in terms of our faculties of who we are as an insan and everyday experiences, and how these experiences mold us as people of judgment or not. And we have that choice. And then understanding how that affects the soul journey in so much depth. So just bear with me as I take you through these steps. So just to put it in a nutshell, bodhicitta is the awakened heart, and awakened heart and mind then are capable of helping other people if they're awakened and open. But that ability to help and be there for others and to do good gets affected by the rust or the covering or the veils that come on the heart, which need to be removed in order to have an open heart. But this heart or this truth within us, the fitrat within us that we want to reach to, which is the goodness within us, which is the godly particle within us, has to be dealt with because of what covers it. And this journey of coming to the goodness within us and opening of the heart is affected greatly by our ideas of judgment. Now, what is this cover? One of the aspects, if not the main or all of it, is this memory that we create. Okay. And I just explained to you that I saw a car. Now I'm going to record that memory. How do I record that memory? It's going to be in the form of an image. It is image. Image is the whole basis of what I'm explaining to you today. We talked about an example last week, which was about the African Americans and how they're discriminated because at large a community feels threatened by them unreasonably without a reason and judges them and hence fears them and then treats them the way they do. Because there's an image around that community. There's an imagery that works through your mind, and that imagery dictates to you a red flag, a flag of danger, and so you act accordingly. And so that judgment of that community is what makes us go into an interaction with a particular person with fear, with anger, with judgment. And now what's happening? You're not truly being helpful to the world. You are being a cause of danger to the world. You are being a cause of injustice. You are being a cause of unfairness and fear in the world. You're causing this negative effect in the world instead of helping the world because of your judgment, which is against bodhicitta. Bodhicitta means that an awakened and open heart is a helpful heart. It brings light to the heart. It brings goodness to the world. It brings help to the world. It brings goodness to the world. So we're going to go into this image right now. The images that we set in our mind, and then the designated, and what we designate to that image. There's an image of a red car, and what we designate to that image then further describes to us whether we like this car or not. How? How do we do that? There's an image in our mind which is a standard for us, which is a standard of good for us. So, for somebody on the street who doesn't even have clothes, a very small two-seater mediocre car, perhaps a Suzuki or something, is going to be a really, really awesome car because they don't even have clothes. But for somebody who's already got a Toyota or something, maybe for them, the lifestyle that they're seeking or what they're after, they would want a Mercedes as a good car. That standard in their mind is different. And first, we set these standards in our mind according to our experiences in life as what is good and what is not good. And therefore, for example, a lot of times I see that women, they will always want their husbands to get them a present and remember the dates, right? They want their husbands to remember the date of their anniversary or their birthday, and men tend to forget. By the way, once they have remembered the date and they get a present, now a woman will gauge the love that the husband has for her through that present, right? So there's a standard in her mind. Some can have a standard of how intimately that gift was chosen. Does the husband remember what color I like? Does he remember who I am? And does the gift match my personality? Others will think about how expensive it is. So was it like how many carats of diamond was it? Or was it gold? Or was it jewelry or not? Or, things like that. So there is a standard in our minds where we are going to decide whether it is good or not. Now, once we decide on a certain standard in our mind, these become an image. So when the husband walks in and brings in a gift, you already have an expectation of what it should be and what standard it needs to fit in, right? Once you have that image and you have a standard of gauging that image, a standard associated with that image, we are now going to judge every experience in our life in contrast or in connection or in relevance to that standard in our mind. So once we have an image in our mind, whatever now we are going to experience in life is going to be matched up to that standard in our mind. And once we have that standard, it's as if constantly we are in the jury. You know how we have these shows that have taken off, like these cooking shows like Master Chef, American Idol, all of these competitions in which you have a jury. Now, when you have a jury, they're constantly judging, because they're going to judge what you're presenting according to a standard and an image that they have in their own mind. And that is going to decide who did well and who did not. And whatever standards are in the jurist's mind, the juror's mind, whatever the jury has in their mind as a set standard becomes the threshold, becomes the yardstick of gauging the good and the bad. So images have a certain standard set to them, and then whatever we experience is compared with what we have in our mind, which is already set. And once that standard is set, then according to that standard of imagery, whatever we experience in our life, we keep comparing it as, was it good enough or was it bad? Now, once we have decided it is good, then we tend to like it. If we decide that according to the set imagery in my mind, it was bad, then we dislike it. So there's a constant like and dislike according to the images in our mind. These images run through our mind very, very fast. And then once we have decided whether we like it or we dislike it, then we kind of tend to decide how we will interact with it. So if it is something that comes up to the standard imagery in my mind, then I will be grateful and happy with that gift my husband got. If I'm happy with the imagery of whatever is being presented, then I will hold a good opinion of it, right? We tend to be biased about people who are well-dressed compared to people who are not well-dressed. We are biased about people who are, who over here at least, that people who speak in English are somehow more educated than the people who speak in Urdu, because we are setting that standard. And so there are so many criteria of judgment, of discrimination, of setting the likes and the dislikes. And then we decide how we are going to behave. So it comes to our character. So there's all this happening within seconds inside a human mind, which then leads to the way a human being behaves with another human being in this world, which then contributes to whether this human being is making the world a better place by helping and sharing and being a source of goodness, or are they holding back through fear, through judgment, and not being helpful or more contributing towards goodness. Once we decide how we're going to act, it then becomes our character. What sort of a character do I have because of the way I behave? Now let's go back to the hadith of Imam Ali, where he says, and many other sages who say, be careful of what you think, because your thoughts become your actions, and what your actions are, be careful of your actions, because your actions become your habits, and your habits become your character, and your character becomes your destiny. So it decides who you become, and what you become then decides what your life is going to be. So they say you do not get what you want in life, you get in life what you become. What are you becoming is going to be then reflected in the life you're going to be living. And therefore, it is really important now to understand the importance of this set image in our minds. The images that run through our minds in milliseconds, we have to be very careful about what is running through our minds. So over here, if we don't awaken in every moment to the images running through our minds, through the thoughts that we are churning in our minds, then these images start to, you can say, it becomes an automatic program which starts to run on its own. It's a self-designed program that becomes very self-sufficient, and it just keeps working on its own. There is a programming of likes and dislikes. According to that, there's a judgment. According to that, the human being falls into a very autopilot action, and the human being will just start to behave without any control over who they are becoming through their actions. And so what is really important is that if we awaken in every moment to the images that we hold, to this process of judgment, of liking and disliking, and we come into a presence, if we come into the present moment through which faculty? The faculty of aql, the faculty of intellect, the spirit, the heart. If we open ourselves, the inner eye to the heart, and we can say, let's come into a state of presence, then we can conquer these images. Okay? Then we can conquer images of who is bad and who is good by consciously deciding that I do not want to fit everything into a like and a dislike. I do not want to constantly judge everyone and everything and every experience. I want to be in touch with that deep goodness within me. And through that deep goodness within me, I will be in a state of non-judgment. I will not decide. Why? Because in the present moment, we let go of the past. When we let go of the past, we have to let go of all the past definitions of what is good and what is bad. I want to share an experience here. It's a very, very personal experience of one of my best friends and me, and how we met. And we've been friends for years and years now. She's one of my angels in my life. She's a really beautiful friend in my life. And the way we met, the way we clicked, we were at a Christmas party actually. And I generally don't go to such places. It's just one time I was invited to this very close family get together, and I was there, and I meet this girl over there who's talking, and we're having these religious discussions around different things. And she told me that she was offended by something, and I said, what is it? And she said, I went somewhere and I saw this lady and she was very skimpily dressed, and I just didn't like it that she was not completely dressed properly and her clothing was not appropriate, but she had this huge pendant of Allah around her neck. And I just found it so weird. Like, she is not even dressed in this Muslim woman's appropriate dressing, but she has this huge, Allah written, and she's wearing this big pendant. And I just felt it was so disrespectful. And in that moment, I'm just reflecting on it. And then I told her, I said, but isn't it so beautiful that no matter what she's thinking, no matter what her life is, whoever she's choosing to be, it's not our concern. But I just find it really beautiful that whatever kind of life she's living, she's chosen to invest thousands of dollars in diamonds in a pendant which is in reverence of God. And she's decided to wear it around her neck as the main article and ornament of beauty for herself, and she has done it in the name of God. And she's wearing it with pride because she's saying that, the most precious to me in my life is God. And it doesn't matter what she's wearing, but what matters is what is in her heart. And it is so obvious through what, she's chosen to embellish herself with. She thinks that using Allah's name is the most beautiful thing that she could have. And she's so proud of putting it around her neck and embellishing it with diamonds. And I just said it, how I am. I just say these things. And I just keep sharing my thoughts. And this is how my friend says it to me. He says that I was just in a shock when I heard that. And it just completely changed the way I was looking at this person, and my judgments fell. And the person I was detesting and judging and, being holier than thou, suddenly I was loving this person for their love of God, and I hadn't seen it that way. The very person I thought was being offensive and being disrespectful to God was suddenly, respecting God and loving God and, expressing beauty through, their love of God. So we see how our past images and our past conditioning and our autopilot puts us on this autopilot track of judging something and disliking something, and that doesn't help us. That kind of makes it difficult for us to live in a world where we can see good, where we can see beauty where we generally wouldn't. So there's an image, right? What my friend experienced there was relying on an imagery of who is a devoted person. We have an imagery in our mind. Who is a devoted person? Who is not a devoted person? Who is a religious person? Who is not a religious person? Who has the right to talk about spirituality and who doesn't have the right to talk about spirituality? Who is going to be my godly teacher and who's not going to be my godly teacher? And, like Khalil Gibran says, your children are your teachers, and most people find that offensive. Like, in Urdu, we have this expression, very sarcastic expression, when somebody's younger and they're trying to share knowledge with you or teach you something, they'll say, ab tum mujhe sikhaoge, you're so young, you're so small, you're going to teach me, and elders will say that, we didn't our hair didn't go white for nothing, it wasn't just the sun that made our hair white, it's life and it's experience that made our hair go white. So we're wiser, we know better. So don't compare yourself with us, we know better, And that becomes an egoic obstacle in our learning process. It's just one of the examples. The other example is that we don't know who is going to come into our life to teach us important lessons. And they may be a helper on the street, they may be a sweeper in the corridor of your school, they may be a beggar who may come, and somebody was, telling me a story that she was saying that she had gone to buy something on the street, and there was a beggar over there, and the beggar was begging for money, and I'm just going to mute. Just give me a second. Okay, so she was saying that there was a beggar over there, and this beggar was asking for money, and suddenly he was there, and suddenly he pointed towards her and said something very specific, and said something like, "Why aren't you looking? Why aren't you opening your eyes?" And it sounded like he was saying, "Why aren't you looking at me? And why aren't you opening your eyes and giving me money or whatever?" But she knew that he was talking about her inner slumber, and she caught on to that message. And I don't exactly remember the interaction, but what I do remember is that this beggar said something to her which totally jolted her within her heart. She gave him the money and went away. And then she asked the people around, and she said, "Is this guy usually here? Does he usually talk like this?" Pointing towards specific people. And they said, "No, he's here. He was here for the first time. We have many, and this one is not been seen here before. It was the first time he was here, and he's gone, and we don't know him." And she knew that he was a messenger from above, waking her up, jolting her back, But it was her humility, it was her lack of judgment, it was her not wanting to fit that beggar into beggar. For her, he was a teacher sent from above, and so she could take something from that experience. We have talked at length about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to us through signs is in this dunya. Sanurihim ayat. He has put signs in the horizons in this outer world. And these signs are messengers that come and speak to us. They come to talk to us. They come to guide us. They come to show us everything, whether it's, for us, whether we put them again in a judging kind of a way as a calamity or a tragedy, or we think of them as messengers, or we think of them as good experiences or bad experiences. Everything comes from the above as a messenger for the guidance of a human being. Every human being comes into our life to teach us something and change us and polish us and constantly create a movement within our hearts. So the idea of sharing these experiences is that if we will be very rigid with the images we hold about anything in our life, then we are constantly going to be affected by a veil in our vision. These images are actually the veils that become an obstacle for us to see things the way they are, right? A gift that a husband brings, I don't want to sound too fixated on this example of the husband getting a gift. So whether a husband or a wife, whoever brings a gift, and if we are too fixated in what is in our heads, we may miss out on the beautiful love intention that was behind that gift. And sometimes we make up our assumptions and stories in our minds that become a veil. And the reason we have these stories and assumptions in our minds, because we have a certain image. We have a certain video running through our mind. We have a certain image running through our mind, which is dictating to us whether the current experience or what we're getting in life is good enough or not. And if we want to be on this journey to God, if we want to be open to receiving messages of guidance, whether they're from within or from without, whether it is from outer dunya or inner world, we have to constantly work on letting go of these images. The more we are rigidly attached to any sort of images, the more we are creating a denser veil to reality. We are depriving ourselves from seeing the haqq, the truth, because the more these images are strengthened and strong and dense and heavily entrenched in us, then we are going to have a very hard time in decrypting, in being able to solve the messages that come to us, because they're always going to get corrupted by the veil in us. We are going to veil what we were supposed to receive through these images. How? Like I said, if we think that I just want a red car, and red car is what is a good car, and for example, I have a superstition, I can't be in a black car, because black is blah blah blah, or these are images, these are thoughts. This is not good for me, this is good for me. I'm the one deciding according to my images what is good and bad, what is pure and what is impure. Then what will happen is that I am going to be depriving myself of the good which is already being given to me, because everything in this world is in the hands of God, and everything in the hands of God is good, and everything coming into my life is ahsan, is good, is tayyib. It's coming from the pure Lord, from Quddus, and whatever is coming from that source is good. But in my judgment, I'm going to dismiss it. I'm going to not receive it. I'm going to reject it. And in that, I will be creating a loss for myself. So the Holy Prophet says, Allahumma arinal ashya kama hiya, O Allah, let me see things the way they are. Now, what is that? It's saying, Oh Allah, let me see things without my own veils and my own judgments, and without my own images of what is good and bad. Now, this incident of the Allah pendant or the locket that this lady was wearing, for my friend, what if that lady who was according to her understanding, not religiously dressed up, may have had a lot of godly spiritual connection to God, and she may have been a person sent from above to teach her something. But because of the bias and because of the judgment, she didn't even go become friends with her, didn't even approach her, didn't even think that she has something to teach her, And so we create these kind of biases, and we keep ourselves away from a lot of good that comes in our life because of this. And so, I remember there's a TED talk about the veil, about hijab of women in Islam. And that lady, I think her name is Samina, and she's wearing this Western red top with jeans. And, I find that she's done a very good analysis of the women's attire through Islamic literature and Quranic work. And a lot of people don't even listen to her because of the way she's dressed. Now, obviously, her stance is that, the way we've understood hijab in Islam is incorrect. But because she's saying something that doesn't gel with us, our mainstream ideas, and because of the way she is dressed, so many people will just pass bad comments. They will just not listen to her, because how dare a Muslim woman be dressed like that and talk about Muslim clothing? So if we are not going to open ourselves up without these preconceived notions, we are not going to be able to receive truth. For us to receive truth, we have to let go of these veils and images when the Holy Prophet says, go and receive knowledge, even if you have to go to China. Today, so many people are not able to receive knowledge from anyone they don't approve of because they feel they will misguide them. Even though there's a hadith which says, don't look at who is saying, see what is being said. Now, if you've been guided by the Prophet and God to go and listen to not what is being said, but to not who is saying it, but what is being said, then that means God trusts you enough to gauge that knowledge, whether it is good for you or not, without feeling fear of who they are. And that's where you have to let go of who they are, what they're wearing, what do they look like, where they're coming from. Forget about all of that and just listen. How can we benefit from that kind of knowledge is when so much of the imagery has to go away. What race and ethnicity do they have? What clothes do they wear? What language do they speak? What face do they have? What age are they? What schools have they been to? Who have been their teachers? So many descriptions that will box that person as good or bad have to be let go. And once you can let go of all of our own, examination methods of dissecting whether this person is worthy of me or not. I mean, that just saying that sounds so arrogant, right? Like, it is a real tragedy that we do that we get caught up with this really false idea that I am somebody and somebody needs to come up to my standard. I'm not anybody. Who am I to decide whether something or somebody is up to my standard or not? When my God is sending something my way, who am I to decide whether something is worthy or not? So, in the spiritual journey to God, in our search for truth, in our search for haqq, it is very, very important that we drop the ideas of good and bad, that we drop the ideas of judgments, preconceived images. And the way to drop it is to constantly come back into the present moment, letting go of the past images, and then being able to be as free of these images as possible, to remove the shackles of preconceived notions in our mind so that we can see something which is in front of us right now as a completely new thing, as a completely untarnished experience of past and future. And that is why, the truth will reveal itself to that person who is not rigidly entrenched in their own images, images of right and wrong. Because my teacher, Sheikh Arif, he would, at one point when we used to have a lot of interaction, he would say, what if you're sitting with a Hindu man and he was actually the truthful one? What if Hinduism was the true religion? And what if, because of your bias, you were not able to see the truth that he was presenting to you because you have decided that Hindus are wrong? You will deprive yourself of the truth. This is just a hypothetical example. But this is exactly what happened with the Holy Prophet. When the Holy Prophet came, because of the fact that there were elders in the community and he was younger, because of all the logistics around him, that his father died and his grandfather died and etc., etc., for so many reasons, his truth was being dismissed because of the judgments, because of the image they held of what the truth is, And a lot of that we see in the Quran, right? I'm just going to end here because I know that I was late today, but it is still time for everybody to end. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that these people will say, but you are just a bashar like us. You look like a man like us. If you're so great and if you're a prophet from the God, then they were expecting what? Some sort of a miracle maker, somebody with wings who could fly, somebody with like an angel, somebody with exuding light, with a halo. You see? So what did they say? You're just like us. You're just a bashar. You're just an insan. Why should we take information from you? Because they had a preconceived judgment, an image in their mind of what truth is. And because of that, they could not get the goodness out of this prophet or a teacher that came to them to help them open their hearts, to reach enlightenment, to learn something that would have helped them grow. But all of that was rejected because of the images in their mind. So, this week, how about us tuning into very simple experiences in life where we see something and we take a moment and we pause and we try to go through this process within us where we can break down this very simple experience and say, okay, am I holding a judgment about this experience or this person on a scale of 1 to 10, how much I like it or I don't? And very honestly catch yourself and see if you do have any judgments, then what image are you holding it up to decide it to be good or bad, right? Whether it's a personal experience, this happened to me. Are you thinking that this was a good experience or a bad experience for you? And then gauging it with that image and then waking up to the fact that I do not want to hold it up to an image. I want to go in like a newborn baby and experience this experience as a complete newborn. Who is a newborn? A newborn is somebody who has not yet had those images being fed to them. They're completely new. And that's why die before you die. Completely die to everything that you've had. Be completely newly born in every moment. To see what you see, to experience what you experience as a completely new person. And hence, they say that, if we could have the curiosity of a child in every moment in our life, then life would be a completely different experience. So try and do this throughout the week and see what a difference it makes in us, because it opens up a completely different door, a completely different way of doing life, where the very same person you meet every day at office becomes a completely new adventure. You don't hold an opinion about this person as a bad boss or a nagging colleague. You go in there and you say, today I'm going to see this person as a completely new person without my judgments of right and wrong or like or dislike. And remember, what you think, you manifest. Whatever we believe, it manifests itself. In Urdu, I always say, think, acha socho, acha hoga, like think good and good will happen. So even a person who is cranky every single day and nags at you, if you can let go of all your past definitions and past ideas and judgments of this person and come into this interaction with whoever this person is with a conscious, present, awakened, deliberate sense of intention, and say, today I will not hold any judgment about this person except good. There is good in this person. There's a godly particle in this person. And I'm going to consciously make an intention of only thinking good of this person. That there is a lot of good in this person, no matter how hard it is. If we can let go of this and come into this interaction, you will be really, really surprised at how much good you will start seeing in your life. There will be only and only good. There will only and only be beauty for us to experience in our everyday life. So, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, I will end my session here, and I would request you all to please put up your hands for a dua. Oh Allah, we come to you with all of our flaws, with all of our judgments, with all of our preconceived notions, ideas, and images. Who are we to hold on to this? Who are we to judge? Who are we to like or dislike? Ya Allah, when there is so much within us to be worked upon. Oh Allah, there is no time, there is no room for us to have this, but we still do it, Ya Allah. We still fall into the illusion of entitling ourselves to these images and the entitlement to decide the good and the bad and the right and the wrong. Who are we, Ya Allah? Oh Allah, help us to let go of all of these rigid ideas that hold us back from seeing you and seeing your truth and seeing the haqq and coming to you. Oh Allah, at times these are just ideas in our mind and it becomes so difficult for us to understand and implement them in our life. Oh Allah, make it easy. For you it is easy, oh Allah. We have set the intention of learning and growing. We have set the intention of letting go. So, oh Allah, we've taken the first step. Please take the 10 steps for us. You say, when my abd comes to me with one step, I run towards them. Oh Allah, run towards us. We are incapable. We are incapable of making sense of so much, and we talk convoluted talks and we sound all intellectual, but what is our reality if it isn't for you? And if it isn't for your will, and if it isn't for your tawfiq, and if it isn't for your mercy and help, that we would be completely lost and misguided, oh Allah. Oh Allah, help us to translate these empty words into actions. And oh Allah, help us to translate these actions into deep realizations in our heart and our soul, so that they can truly help us transform and change towards godliness, so that we could also be one of those lucky ones who experience liqa Allah. Oh Allah, please do not deprive us of that gift of your meeting, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, we do not rely on ourselves, for we are weak and flawed, but we rely on your mercy and karam, for you to bestow this honor on our hearts, for which we wait eagerly. Ameen Ya Rabbal Alameen.